Are you confused by the new data logger in GT7 that has just dropped from the Spec 3 update? Well, this video aims to help you improve and understand what all of the data means to improve your driving. Hello, I'm Drupa Designs, a visually impaired gamer, streamer and livery designer, and the data logger has just dropped in GT7 Spec 3. And in this video we're going to be going through the basics of the data logger, how to use it and how to get the most out of it to improve your driving in Gran Turismo 7. Now this is the first of a few videos I'm going to be doing on the data logger. Today is just the basics, and then over the next few days to week we're going to be going into some more advanced techniques to help you improve. So if you find the video helpful, please do consider hitting that subscribe button, it really will help out a lot. There's going to be timestamps in the description and chapters of each individual element that we're going through, so if you want to jump ahead to a specific part, please do, but let's get straight into it. Our data logger is vital in improving performance of a driver. In the past I've worked with race teams collecting the data and working with the drivers to improve their driving and make sure the cars run smoothly. My dissertation at uni even revolved around using the data logger in GT6. So firstly, what is a data logger? Well, it's a piece of equipment that tracks all the telemetry from a car. Speed, gears, throttle, brake, G-force, track position and everything to help you understand what's happening in the car and where you can improve. So in the GT7 logger there are 3 different pages. The first is this, with the speed and gap across the top and the driving line in the centre. You've got the 2 laps that you can compare on the left hand side with the track map and the centripetal acceleration on the bottom left. On this page there's not much that can be changed. There is a few things I think this data logger can do a lot better, but I'm going to go into that at the end of the video. Now you can either select each page from the left or click the touchpad to change page. Now this is where some of the customization is going to be coming in. So you can change in these bottom 2 sections where the track map was, you can change from throttle, brakes, gears, RPM, lateral acceleration and longitudinal acceleration. I like to have throttle and brake up on this page because those are your inputs that you're mainly going to be changing. On the 3rd page we have another section where we can look at the speed and RPM, centripetal acceleration and then information on the cars you're driving, and this is then being compared to the driving line as well. When you're analysing data you want a reference to compare to. Now what's great about GT7 is you can compare against the top drivers from time trial. The data logger cannot be used for race replays, which I think is a little bit of a shame, but it is there for time trials, circuit experiences, the licenses and for your daily race qualifying times. So we're in this week's time trial with the new Renault Espace at Yas Marina, and so we're going to click on this empty box here. Now if I'd save times I would have these all come up here from the replays, but we can go into the global rankings and take some of the fastest drivers' data and compare ourselves to the world's best. So at this point a little bit more data comes up on the screen. So across the speed trace on the top, we now have the gap, where we're either gaining or losing, in my case, against the fastest, and the areas where we're losing most time. Now where that graph is steepest down is where you're losing most time, so it gives you an area to focus on and where to exactly look at the data. The more key controls for the data logger is the right stick, so you can use that. If you move it up or down, moves it in and out of the track map, or if you move the right stick left and right, it changes the scale of the speed trace across the top. So if you only want to look at one corner, this is turn 1 at Yas Marina, you can look at that, and then you can use the right and left triggers to move the time along and go through in slow motion or at full speed. You'll also notice down the bottom, if you press triangle, it says change mode. Now that, currently it's set, as you see with the little red line, this is both laps overlaid as if they're running together, ignoring the time difference. So it's currently set as if the cars were going along side by side, setting it on track position rather than time. But if we click triangle, we'll then have the difference, and it will only be tracking from our time. So we'll see where exactly the other driver is pulling away from us. So if we play it through, we'll see the other car manages to get away on exit. They're a little bit better on the brakes, a little bit better on the throttle, and they're pulling away. So we can see where those differences come. So we zoomed in a little bit further on the track map, and we can see the differences on this track map. We have acceleration and deceleration on the driving line. So on the driving line there's 3 different sections. There's solid line, there's a dotted line, and there's this squiggling line. And they all mean different things. The solid line is on power, the dotted line is off the throttle, and that zigzag line is on the brakes. Now the issue with that is you don't know the percentage of throttle or brake that they're on. The only absolute you know is when it's dotted, you know there's no input at all. At the minute you have to look through each page to compare all the different percentages. It would be really helpful if you could map one of the screens to have the throttle and brake trace next to that track map, just to see the percentages as it runs through, as you can in actual software like AIM or Motec. Okay, so we've covered the controls and what each page is, so let's have a brief rundown of things you want to look out for to improve your lap. So as I've said, this is only going to be the basics, and we're going to go into more detail and more advanced techniques in another video. But what you really want to be looking out for is where they're braking and you're not, or where they're on the throttle earlier and you're not. So we can see here into the braking zone of turn 1 at Yas. They're on the brakes a little bit earlier than we are. It's incredibly similar, the way we've both got onto the brakes there, very much the same. They are just that tiny bit earlier, which corresponds with the track map. You can see the yellow line, which is the faster lap, braking just that slight bit earlier than we do. You can also see they are on the throttle and off the brakes much earlier than we are. And this allows them to carry more speed through the apex at the corner. You can see the transition on the speed trace. Being later on the brakes means we are carrying more speed in. The blue line is higher on that speed and gap trace, but as we come off the brakes is where it transitions, and because they're on the power and off the brakes earlier, they carry that momentum through the apex, and that trace crosses over, so the yellow is then on top. You can really start to see how every element of the data logger needs to be used with every other element to get the most out of the lap. Now that does lead me into the areas I think the data logger could have been done better. First one being, there's no steering trace that I've found. It'd be really helpful to know how much steering lock yourself or another driver's using. You can compare the steering angle, you'd know how much the cars are sliding, and if you're over rotating the car. You can get if a car's understeering by using the lateral G-force, but we're going to be going into that in the advanced video. It'd be really handy to have a video play alongside some of the data as well, so like the track map, so you can see where someone's braking earlier or later, just having that direct comparison of a video, so you can maybe pick up a new braking marker or pick an area on the track that you need to look for. And as I previously mentioned, it would be so helpful to have the throttle and brake trace with that track map side by side, so you can, or even just the percentage numbers of the throttle and brake, seeing where those lines are transitioning from the solid to dotted to the zigzag, just so you're not having to go from page to page to page, so you can see it all on one screen, would make it so much easier to understand the data. The last bit they could really improve on is this central acceleration graph. It is so hard to see what's going on this graph. The colour difference of the crosses and the previous trace just isn't there. It's nigh on impossible to see where those crosses are and understand the data from this specific graph. So that is the basics of how to use the data logger from the Spec 3 update from GT7. I really hope this video has helped you, and there is going to be a more advanced version going through the techniques of exactly how to optimize your racing. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the data logger down in the comments below, and if you want to come back for the advanced data logger video, make sure you are subscribed. Have a fantastic day. Keep plodding on.